All right, here we are, back in the greenhouse.
Yeah, somewhat cleaner than it was prior.
Whoa, look at this. What do we have over here in all these boxes?
That would happen to be a lot of the perennials that we shall be starting very, very soon. Some of which will get potted up today, but in the very near future, we'll be getting all of those potted up.
Now, what all do we have in this bin over here? We've discussed this once prior. Now, ordinarily, if you're going to mix your own seed starting mix, usually you mix 2 parts peat moss to 1 part vermiculite to 1 part perlite and add in a couple tablespoons of hot lime. Now, vermiculite and perlite are both volcanic minerals, and it's very doubtful that people have a volcano in their backyard where they have access to it at home. That's strictly something you have to go to the store to buy. So I'm presuming that what we're doing here is mixing this soil using what we would expect to find right here in our own dooryards, correct?
Well, with the exception of some of the other stuff that, I mean, you can see how there's some old wood pellets, rip bag.
Which is really just wood pulp.
Right. Just basically that's it. Sawdust. Fancy sawdust. And now some of the other stuff that we're about to add in here, you're not going to find locally, you know, depending on where you live. This is just
what do we have there?
An old wet bag of pelletized gypsum.
Okay, now gypsum is good at converting clay soil into actual aerated usable.
Into loomy soil. Depending on where you're located, see where we are up here in Sullivan County, New York, our soil is loaded with red shale and clay. And the thing is this helps to loosen up the soil and also helps to bind with that clay and actually turn the soil into a much more loomy mix. You know, different air, like, put it this way, down in South Jersey, where their soil is very sandy, you wouldn't need to ever think about adding a product like this. Because their soil is very loose, it's very easy for the roots to grow, they don't have problems.
Well, gypsum is the same thing that they make wallboard out of, correct?
Yep, it's the same thing as sheetrock. That's why gypsum used to be cheap. It used to be a very cheap product. But
meaning inexpensive.
Yeah, as construction materials have gone up in price, so too has the gypsum. So, as your price of sheetrock goes up, so does the price of a bag of gypsum. But it's definitely well worth it to put it in to help loosen up heavy clay soils. And this right here just happens to be a very nice old wet bag of lime. And I'm just adding a little of this in. And we're going to get that mixed through. And it'll just help to sweeten everything up because we do have a lot of peat moss in here. And we do have a lot of decomposing bark products in here. And what happens when you get all that stuff decomposing, as everything rots, it produces acid. And lime is the only thing to counterbalance that. So lime is very important.
Okay, we'll whip this up and we'll start to pot things up.
Yum.
Okay, here we are. We have our potting mix all mixed up. Okay, we have some beauties here that James wants me to take a look at.
Yeah, we got some beauties.
I don't know, is a beautiful woman going to jump out of here like a birthday cake?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Not them type of beauties. Now, what we have, let's see. American Classic. Here we go. That's what those little babies are going to look like. It's a black iris.
Let's zoom in on that.
Yeah.
A black iris.
A black iris. Yep. Now, actually, here's one little point. If you keep it rolling for a second, as I take these out of here. These have been in a cold house. So they're still actively growing, but they're not growing a lot. Also, too, they've been kept fairly moist. If you notice, you see some fungus. And basically, it's not necessarily something to worry about. Now that we're taking these things out of their boxes, they're going to be into some sunlight. A lot of this is actually going to deteriorate with the sunlight. The sunlight itself is actually going to take care of this.
Plus the fungus you're talking about.
The fungus, just because of the fact the plants now are going to have a chance to air out. Yeah, so anytime that you get stuff sent to you, it's best to get it out as soon as you get it in. And these plants here literally just came in a day and a half ago, so that's why we're getting them out, so they have a chance to breathe.
So you don't need to treat these with anything to get rid of that fungus. It's just going to die a natural death when you put it back.
It's going to die a natural death. Some people might like to treat it, but the thing is, it's going to die off on its own. And it's not something that's, as you can see, these plants, like this plant here that has a little fungus on it, is still very green, very viable, and happily growing.
Okay.
Okay, we're taking a look at our plants, and like I said, they've been almost like in a cold house. Even though the tops haven't been growing that much, the roots have been growing left and right. Now we're loosening these up, basically just like what we did last week with the pothos, where we're massaging the roots. We're making sure not to break any for the most part, because these are all good, healthy roots. It's not like repotting a plant where you're going to find some old dead roots or anything like that. But just looking at it, we really don't want to curl these roots around too much, so we're kind of judging to see what size pot we're going to need to put these in, so it's going to have a lot of room to grow. It's only March 1st up here. Chances are these are going to need to grow out for almost 2.5 months. They probably won't be sold until sometime in May. We could easily still have snow in the ground through the end of April. So Angie's over, she's looking for some pots, and I think we've pretty much... Yeah, this right here, this is a classic 400 pot, which is basically, it's a true 1 gallon. A lot of places, they have a 300 series pot and a 400 series pot. This one here, the 4 basically standing for, it's a 4 quart or 1 gallon pot. And this pot right here, there's going to be enough room. We're going to be planting this bulb right out at or just below ground level. And as you can see, it won't cramp the roots for the most part.
So that's how you determine what size pot you're going to use, is the length of the roots?
Well, that's kind of what we do here, because the thing is we don't want to crowd the roots. Like I said, it's going to be about 2.5 months before this plant will probably end up getting sold at retail. So we want to make sure that it's got a lot of room. There'll be a lot of room in that pot for those roots to grow. And they will grow out, and we want people basically to get the biggest, healthiest plant. We could easily put it in a much smaller pot. This here is a traditional, this is a 6-inch pot. In fact, here, we actually recycle pots from all sorts of customers and stuff like that. This is one a customer dropped off to us. This is from a local grocery store chain. If you can zoom in on that sticker, this pot here, someone just dropped off, for us to reuse. And this was from, it just says floral arrangement on it. But you could easily, if you wanted to save money, because the bigger the pot, the more expensive it is, also the more soil it takes up. We could easily plant this up, and it wouldn't take long at all. Boom, done, 6-inch pot. And just let it go like that. And it will grow up, and it'll look nice, and people will buy it. The thing is, it kind of matters what you get. If we take that same plant and end up putting it in a larger pot, yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer for it to grow and the roots to fill up that pot. But when they do, it's going to be a much better, a much healthier plant.